Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. This is the first devlog of the next major update, and it is for an American SPAA. The T77E1 has graced us, and it's going to be at rank 2, which is kind of surprising. This vehicle is pretty cool. It's based off the Chaffee chassis, and also has access to 650 cals. They also, in the article, clarify what's going on with the Skink, and also the M4A5 Ram II, so we'll go through that as well. But this is going to be a vehicle which is going to be in a long line of American SPAAs that are going to come in the future. So even though this one doesn't really fix that gap that we've talked about when it comes to the M19 and the M42, it is a first step towards improving that area, and that's what America needs. Everything else is pretty much covered for America, apart from the SPAAs, so to see the first step is fantastic. Now, we're going to go through the history of this vehicle, and also how I think it's going to work in the game. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe. Let's get into it. Development started in July of 1943, when a new SPAAG based on the M24 chassis was requested. A modern design at the time, which proved to be a malleable platform for additional development opportunities. A mock-up was created in December, and 2 prototypes were ordered in April of 1944 after some design tweaks. The first prototype was designated as the T77 and arrived at the Aberdeen Proving Ground in July of 1945. The second prototype was delivered a little later and featured several differences, enough to warrant a new designation, the T77E1. Despite displaying an impressive ability for its intended purpose, the conclusion of the war and the introduction of jet aircraft deemed the design ineffective for large-scale future use. While the Army pursued additional testing into the early 1950s, nothing came of this development, and the prototypes were likely scrapped shortly after. So when you look at the T77E1, it has a lot of things which should make it a pretty good conventional low-tier SPAA. 650 cals is something that shouldn't be laughed at. I know a lot of people like 20mm and stuff like that, but if you have a look at the M16, for example, that is incredibly powerful even just with the 450 cals. So 6 M250 cals should be very nice. Another part of it which is awesome is each gun actually has access to 900 rounds of ammunition, so therefore you'll be able to do a lot of sustained fire with this thing, and be able to create a pattern in the sky that the enemy will run into. Since it's a rank 2 as well, it won't be crazy high, so you'll be facing a lot of aircraft that you'll be able to bonk out of the sky, and at the same time it has a good elevation of 85 degrees. Not perfect, obviously 90 degrees would be perfect, but 85 is close enough. The targeting speed on this thing as well should actually be pretty good compared to a lot of other SPAAs that are around, but we're going to have to see what those rates are when the dev server rolls around. Another part of it, which is pretty cool, is it has these little glass domes on the top where I'm sure there'll be people sticking out of it, but the main thing is that this should count as a closed system. So very similar to the Skink, where it's going to be very hard to overpressure you instead of being in an SPAA which is open. And one of the problems with a lot of the American SPAAs, whether it be the M16, you know, the M42, the M19, all of these things are open top. So if you just land a rocket near them or a bomb near them, guess what? They explode very easily. Whereas this, the T77E1, should be a lot harder to overpressure. The vehicle itself is based off the M24 chassis, which means that it will have exactly the same kind of hull as it, so a decent amount of protection and good mobility, which will be good. The turret protection, they say, is similar to the M18, so it's really not going to really do too much for you, but it will be enough to once again stop the overpressure stuff, which is quite nice. The other part of it, which will also be quite good, is just being able to motor around, maybe getting some caps, and also just being able to deal with some lighter vehicles. Usually the lower BR SPAAs aren't as good at tank killing though. There are certain exceptions. The Flak Panzer with its HVAP is quite good at it, but not vehicles around this BR, especially with access to 50 cals. This isn't going to be something that you use to go after tanks. This is definitely going to be more of a actual genuine SPAA. The 40mm SPAAs can be pretty good at anti-tank capabilities, but the 50 cals do rely a little bit too much on kind of like their explosive damage and burst fire instead of stuff like penetration, so they're not going to be as good at the multi-role capability. But that's fine, because that's not what America needs. America needs more SPAAs that are actual SPAAs, and that's exactly what the T77E1 is. And the fact that it has a very good targeting speed, has really good horizontal drive and really good elevation for around its rank, and also has that pretty good burst fire with the 650 cals, that's literally what you need. So I'm very happy that they've added this for that exact reason. It's why stuff like the Skink, for example, was fantastic to see for the British, and also even stuff like the BTR-ZD. Now, this is going to be nowhere near the level of either of those machines. It's going to be a lot lower in BR, but it will at least help that area for America. The ideal would be to actually have an SPAA at every single BR, so you can run it with every single lineup, especially with how powerful CAS is right now and how everything is kind of set up around it. How it's very easy to get into CAS elements, and how aggressive Overpressure is with ordnance. So we're going to have to hopefully see more of these, including not just the E1, but hopefully the T77 as well, and many others. Now let's have a chat about the Skink and the M4A5 Ram II. These are kind of bundled in with all of these different setups. So America is going to get the Skink. They are going to move the Skink to the American tree, but also keep it in the British tree, so it will be available for both nations. Now that is really good. It pretty much means that you have an SPAA for both sides, which are going to be quite nice to use. The Skink is a good machine. It has a little bit of an issue with its targeting speed, but overall it's pretty nice. There's also commonality between, the US and the British. Obviously the Skink is a Canadian vehicle, but it's built off a Grizzly, which the Grizzly is a license-built Sherman tank from the Americans. The Skink also, with the Canadian forces, was tested in Britain and technically fought under the Commonwealth. Also used Polston guns, which were provided by the British for the Canadians. So technically the machine could have gone in either tree, and adding it to both, especially as a balanced setup, I think is completely fine. SPAAs is one of those that I don't get too annoyed with the copy-paste nature of it, because of the fact that it's so needed, and America just doesn't really have too many in that BR bracket, which would be pretty good. Because if you don't know about America's history, America had a bunch of different projects going on during the Second World War, but after the Second World War, they just shut them all down and kind of evolutionized, or I suppose re-envisioned what their armed forces were going to be like. And so you have this big gap in technology, especially for SPAAs, where they go from, the ones that we have in game to radar SPAAs, and also going along with the air superiority doctrine, which was the main part of it too. Then for the Ram II, which is the M4A5, this vehicle is also going to the British tech tree, which I think is really cool. The Ram II will get added to the British tech tree as a premium, and it will get a unique Canadian skin as well. So it will be slightly different from the standard one, which will be quite nice. So basically they're just moving across those vehicles to each tree. I don't think anybody should really have a problem with this. Maybe the fact that the British one is a premium is kind of annoying, but the American one is also a premium, so they're kind of keeping up with that. But it would be better if that wasn't the case. I think making it a standard tech tree vehicle would have been better, just to incentivize people to play it a little bit more. But it's still okay. It's still fine to see. And they also leave a developer note for it. It says, "We'd like to note that the addition of the Skink to the American tree is not in place of any other unique vehicle. We have more SPAA planned for the tree, and the Skink is just a bonus on top. The Skink will add more gameplay options and diversify lineups for the US, and the Ram 2 has been requested for Britain for a while now, so this is a great opportunity for them to receive it. And it's very true, because there's a lot of Canadian vehicles in the British tech tree. Canada as a Commonwealth country makes more sense in the British tech tree, and it was always weird that the Ram went to America and didn't go to Britain, especially since Britain was in the game when the Ram got added to America. Now, the fact that all of that has been cleared up is fantastic. One of the things to note, though, is, as they said, they're working on more SBAAs. The T77E1 doesn't fix the gap that people want it to between the M42 and the M163, but I'm sure they will find something that will, and the Skink is one of those that at least pushes towards it. As always, though, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.